No, this guy just looks like a cartoon character. He shot him in the head at least one time. I don't think there's blood pouring out of his head.
Who was the masked intruder that came into your house at 4 a.m.?
It was Nathan.
I didn't do it. My sister blames me for everything, and she always has.
Honestly, I feel like taking me seriously for sure.
I'm usually not like this. I don't know if I need some treatment or what.
Did he have a gun pointed at you?
Yes, he did.
And what did he say to you?
He said this is going to happen whether or not you want it.
These are Tim McNeil and his stepdaughter, Bray. They look as close as a father and daughter can be, but this picture is deceiving because in 2007, Bray wanted her father dead. And after she devised a plan, she also found someone to throw under the bus for it. Why did Bray Hansen unalive her father? Was her brother involved? And how were they caught? This is the full story of Bray Hansen and Nathan Gone. You guys, a good hair day really improves my mood, but personally, I want to have excellent hair at all times, and that has become harder and harder. I've been bleaching it, dyeing it, and subjecting it to all sorts of heat treatments to give it the perfect shape. So lately, I've been losing quite a lot of hair, and I decided to do something about it. Enter MD Hair, the sponsor of today's video. I never thought you could get so much for a small subscription, y'all. It took me just a few seconds to complete their online quiz, and I got a personalized kit containing treatment shampoo, regrowth serum, and restore supplements. Among my hero botanicals are reishi mushrooms, tea tree oil, and saw palmetto. This super quick and comprehensive quiz is done by MD Hair's AI technology. Honestly, what is more exciting than AI sorting out your hair? MD's Hair's AI not only analyzes your scalp and gives you a treatment plan, but it also tracks your hair growth progress throughout time. And that's not all you get. The subscription includes free 24/7 one-on-one chat support with dermatologists. I was so happy with this. Now I understand exactly how the product works for me and how I'm supposed to use it. 3 weeks into using my tailored MD Hair kit, my hair is already thicker and its texture is soft and shiny, almost as if I'd never bleached it before. MD Hair is fully backed by science and made to fit all needs. From thicker, healthier hair to actually repairing intense hair loss, it's formulated with medical grade and natural ingredients, and it's clean and sustainable too. Cruelty-free, paraben-free, and packed in recyclable packaging. Customize your hair regrowth treatment with MD Hair. Use my promo code ANNA70 to get your first month of customized products at 70% off. On July 18th, 2007, Tim McNeil turned 63. He lived in San Diego with his girlfriend Kim and his stepdaughter from his second marriage. He was also a well-known lawyer specializing in criminal law and family law. On July 19th, Tim was home having lunch with his stepdaughter Bray before having to return to work at his private practice. But he never made it to work that day. That afternoon, Bray phoned the emergency services.
Please, Christine,
Help,
911.
please. I think we've been robbed. I'm tied up and my dad's been shot.
What's your name?
Bray.
Bray, how old are you?
I'm 17.
Your dad needs paramedics?
I think he's dead.
Bray was in a state of shock, which is to be expected of someone who'd just gone through a traumatic moment like this. The dispatcher tried to calm her down and obtain as much information as she could about the robber.
Okay, Bray, where's the person that shot your dad?
I don't know, he ran off.
Okay, and he came into your house and did this?
Yes.
Okay, was he white, black, Hispanic?
He was all covered from head to toe. Yes, for the combinations of the safe.
What'd your dad do?
He refused. And when he shot him, he had me zip-tie my dad.
Oh, he zip-tied you? All right, Bray, you're doing good. And when he talked, did he have an accent or anything?
No, only just this guy just looks like a cartoon character. He shot him in the head at least one time. I don't think there's blood pouring out of his head.
The first responders discovered a scene as graphic as Bray had described. Tim's lifeless body was discovered in his game room in a big home in peaceful Rolando Village, San Diego. People who lived in this area were not used to violent crimes. In fact, Rolando Village is a quiet, upper-class neighborhood known for its safety. Tim's sudden death was truly unusual and disturbing. The only witness was 17-year-old Bray. She told the detectives that she was having lunch with her dad as usual when a man suddenly broke into their home and announced he was going to rob them. When Tim refused to give him the code for the safe, the robber took Tim's life in front of his screaming daughter. That's all Bray could say that time. She couldn't provide a description of the suspect as he was covered with a mask and black clothing, she said. But the detectives tried to piece the case together from another perspective as well. They looked at Tim McNeil's life and past. In so many homicide cases, it's an immediate family member or work colleague who commits the crime. So if the detectives could find someone who saw Tim as an enemy, they could at least have a lead. But the harder they looked, the more it seemed like Tim was the perfect guy. He was easygoing, caring, and loved by his family, friends, and work partners. He was born in 1944 in Montreal, Canada. He grew up in San Diego and studied at the San Diego University. Then he studied law and worked as a prosecutor for the district attorney's office for 6 years. Then Tim decided to start his own private practice. Sometime before this, he also started a family. In 1968, Tim married Barbara, and they had 2 daughters together, Erin and Kelly. Heartbreakingly, Kelly passed away as a baby. Erin would describe her father as the funniest, most easygoing, nicest guy. He just could walk into a room and work it. He could talk to anybody. 25 years later, the couple split, and Tim went on to marry again to a school teacher named Doreen Hansen. Doreen also had children from a previous marriage, Bray and Nathan. To Tim, it didn't matter at all that these were not his biological children.
Oh, well, I mean, they were his kids. He treated them just like he treated me.
Bray and Nathan grew up with Tim and Doreen, and with Erin, Tim's daughter from his first marriage. They were one big, happy family, except Doreen wasn't happy. Sadly, she was going through debilitating depression, and sometimes she would hurt her young children too.
Did you ever see her say, "I love you"?
Oh, no.
Doreen was physically abusive to Nathan in particular.
She was physically violent with him, hitting him with sticks, ridicule him.
She threw things at me,
Like what kind of things?
like kitchen appliances and knives.
She would throw knives at you.
Well, she had threatened to kill me several times.
One day, Doreen chose to end her life instead. As you can imagine, this left the family in shambles. Nathan and Bray, who were born 2 years apart, were already teenagers when this happened. But that's not to say that this didn't affect them deeply. When he was 12, Nathan went to live with his grandma and great-grandma in Arizona. Tim had arranged this, so Nathan could escape the abuse at the hands of his mother. Bray, however, stayed close to her stepfather until the day of his untimely death. In 2006, Tim started dating a woman named Kim. The two were really happy together, and in less than a year, Kim moved in with Tim and his 2 daughters. Shortly after this, someone broke into their home and unalived Tim. To the detectives, this made very little sense. Random attacks like this rarely happen in this area. Plus, the alleged robber had not taken anything from the house, and offing someone for so little is also very rare in a home robbery case. It's an almost guaranteed life imprisonment sentence. Few people risk this for petty cash or valuables.
And we talked about how brazen it would be for someone to do this in the middle of the afternoon, and who might do such a terrible thing.
And if the attack was not random, well, who could have possibly wanted Tim dead?
They told us it was a home invasion robbery and that the victim had been tied up and that there was a surviving victim. Mr. McNeil's body was laying on the floor here with his head towards the pool table and his feet towards the door. What I saw first was the large amount of... It just... It hits you as something horrific.
When the officers arrived at the crime scene, Bray's hands were still tied behind her back. She wasn't crying anymore, but she was still visibly upset. Bray claimed she was able to dial 911 with her tongue. When Erin found out about this, she broke down, but her first concern was her stepsister, Bray.
I was livid that this poor girl had witnessed one of the most heinous things happen to her father. And I just was like, how's she gonna come back from this?
And just a few years after losing her mom, too. Erin was right to worry about her little sister. However, she didn't know everything, and neither did the detectives. That day, they discovered the revolver that had taken Tim's life was on a staircase in the backyard. They also found this mask hung in a tree, and there were 2 witnesses saying they'd seen the attacker run down this staircase. In the interrogation room, Bray recounted new details. This was not unusual. Many victims left in a state of shock hardly remember anything just minutes after the incident. Later on, they can remember several more details once they've calmed down.
First thing I see is my dad standing sideways and the person all in black.
However, Bray repeated that the robber had disguised his voice as a cartoon character. That sounded off to the detectives.
That's when we were like, bull. Because you know, a home invasion robber, they want to sound like the boogeyman. They want to sound like Daffy Duck, you know?
Especially if he was masked head to toe and Tim and Bray didn't know him. What would have been the point? So the only scenario the detectives could think of was that the attacker was someone that the family knew. As the detective spoke to Bray again, she suddenly blurted out a name.
I heard my dad ask him, "Why are you doing this, Nathan?" And that's all I know. He didn't say that's not my name or that's not who I am, or he didn't deny it.
Wait, Nathan was Bray's own brother. He was also away studying in Arizona and living with his grandma. Why would Bray think he was the attacker?
She said this name, Nathan. And she goes, but she said, it's not my brother. My brother's named Nathan, but it's not him. And I remember we were just, what?
The detectives looked up Bray's brother. It turns out he was an honors student and a YouTuber.
Hello there, YouTube people. My name is Nathan Gann.
He didn't really fit the suspect profile. Well, neither did Bray, but the detectives were suspicious of her by now. First of all, she kept adding details to the story every time the officers would press her for more information. Second of all, she was holding up extraordinarily well for a 17-year-old who just witnessed what she'd witnessed. The detective suspected Bray might be covering for her brother or trying to throw him under the bus. So they went to Tucson, Arizona and interviewed him.
I didn't do anything though. I need a lawyer. This is too powerful. This is just, I'm trying to tell you guys I wasn't involved.
A few days into the investigation, Bray was handed a police sketch of the suspect 2 witnesses saw running away from Tim's home. When the detectives asked her if this looked like the attacker, she said, no, his jaw was more square-like. But hadn't she said that the man was completely covered and wore a mask? That's when the detective read Bray her Miranda rights again and explained the gravity of lying in a homicide investigation. Watch what she said next.
I'm usually not like this. I don't know if I need some treatment or what.
You think you should be charged with anything?
I did kind of start the whole thing, even if it was, I don't know, lapse of judgment or whatever.
Yep, Bray just up and decided to confess.
I mentioned to one of my friends, Nikki, that I wish I could, but that was about it.
You wish you could what?
That I wished I could kill my dad or whatever.
Or whatever. It was a partial confession. She wasn't ready to admit to everything, but clearly she hadn't thought of what she would say. So the more the detectives would ask her, the more she would let out.
Drops off some change, I hear, walks back out. I can tell he's walking downstairs, and by this time I'm freaking out because I know what's about to happen, and I'm just, yeah.
This time, her story was that she just spoke about offing Tim, and her brother Nathan crafted the whole plan. Then, he forces her to get involved.
But I followed him down, and my brother acted like he didn't know me at all. He just pointed the gun at me and said, "You, tie him." So I tied him, but I didn't tie him very tightly, hoping that he'd escape.
You have to be a special kind of person to still act like the hero when you've just unalived your dad.
He was like, "Nathan, don't do this, you can go back now, I promise I won't call the cops or anything, blah, 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 blah." I was like, "Nathan, maybe we should listen to him." Or actually I said, "Maybe you should listen to him."
It's interesting how she acts like she regretted it immediately and tried to save her dad, all the while talking with zero emotion and sprinkling in her sentences with blah, 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 and whatever.
When I think my dad lunged at him and tried to get the gun, and I kind of turned away and was just freaking out majorly, and I heard a gunfire, and I looked back, and I saw my dad saying, "You shot me, you killed me."
Sheesh. Even the detectives were shocked at her absolute lack of remorse or emotion.
I'm just curious what you think should happen to you.
No. I don't think I should be charged with murder.
You think you should be charged with anything?
I had some say in it, so yes.
What do you think you should be held accountable then for your fault?
I do and I don't, because I'm usually not like this.
Oh, then it's okay. If you don't usually off your dads, then it's all good.
Hello there, YouTube people. My name is Nathan Gann. I go by TW Naru. I play lots of games online. Maybe random people will see this, friends, family. Maybe I'll become a hit. Who knows? I'll be the next Numa Numa. Who knows? Anyway.
Yeah. Nathan never got famous. At least, not through YouTubing. Following Bray's confession, Nathan was arrested in Tucson, Arizona, and charged with first-degree murder. Nathan insisted he was innocent. First of all, he was in Arizona, so how would he teleport to San Diego to unalive his dad?
Don't let your little sister take the whole rap for this. Tell us your side of the story. Bingo. Tell us your side of the story. Like, what the hell? Like, your little sister killed your dad? Your little sister, you gonna let her? I didn't see anything. You gonna let her out try for this whole thing? I didn't do anything, though.
Both Nathan and the detective were relentless.
Your sister's gonna fall for this whole thing because you won't man up and act like the big brother you're supposed to act like.
Here's the thing. By now, Nathan's DNA had been found on the ski mask that was hung in the tree. Paired with Bray talking to the detectives, this was enough to believe Nathan would eventually confess.
How'd you feel, Nathan, when he went down? I just didn't want to do you better than the year. I didn't want to lose my dad.
Once he started confessing, Nathan broke down. His attitude was so different from Bray's.
You're gonna be okay, Nathan. I think that I've been back. I really don't feel like I deserve to be a person anymore. Are you saying that you didn't mean to kill him? I mean, I was angry, but no. You don't want him to die. I didn't want him to die. I wanted him to be scared. I wanted him to be honest. I don't want him to honestly feel like take me seriously for sure.
When their mother remarried, Nathan was 6 and Bray was 4. They loved Tim a lot. He treated them as his own kids and protected them when Doreen lashed out at them.
Did he ever defend you or try to defend you?
You know, he'd step in Doreen, that's enough.
It was Tim who stepped in whenever Nathan was getting the worst of Doreen's moods. And it was also Tim who helped Nathan move to Arizona. But as soon as Nathan was out of the family home, his name disappeared. It was like his mother had forgotten about him.
It was really weird because I was still a kid and it was never spoken about to me. He was just gone.
Although hurtful, Nathan grew away from his mom under his grandma's care. He was doing fine. Bray, on the other hand, was not so well. Now Doreen would take her depression, frustrations, and alcohol abuse out on her.
How bad did it ultimately get?
It got to the point where I had to move to Tucson because I thought she was going to kill me.
Indeed, Bray lived with her brother for a few months before Doreen took her own life. After tragedy struck the family, Bray and Nathan looked up to Tim like he was their only beacon of light during this tough time. However, everything changed after Tim started dating Kim. This was happening just 3 months after Doreen's death. To Bray and Nathan, this was the ultimate betrayal.
What the evidence shows, ladies and gentlemen, in this case, is that a conspiracy to kill Timothy McNeil existed between Bray Hansen and her brother.
During Bray's trial, her defense attorney insisted that all Bray did was call her brother. She planted the seed in his head, but she didn't want to go through with the plan, they said. However, her interrogation was pretty damning.
I still can't believe I did this.
What do you think you should be held accountable then for your fault?
I do and I don't, because I'm usually not like this. How else you guys catch us?
That's what we do for a living.
Don't look any better way.
Bray even left a key and a weapon in a box outside for her brother for the morning of the attack. She could not deny premeditation or aiding and abetting.
You made a key.
I did.
You took cash out of your account.
I did.
And you got the gun.
I did.
And you put all those items in a box and you left them on the back doorstep for the killer to get.
Yes, I did.
Bray's only defense was that she regretted starting the plan and that she begged her brother to stop on the morning of the attack. Now she was painting Nathan as a ruthless monster who even threatened to unalive her too if she stood in the way and his plan.
Did he have a gun pointed at you?
Yes, he did.
And what did he say to you?
He said, this is going to happen whether or not you want it. And if you're smart, you'll go along with it or you'll end up just like him.
This does not sound like Nathan. And as you can imagine, Nathan's story was pretty different. Interestingly though, the two siblings had one single trial with two separate juries. This happened because some evidence was not admissible for both defendants. For Tim's daughter, Erin, it was disgusting to watch Bray have such little accountability for her actions.
You have to be a little empty inside and not know truly what love brings to your life, to take the person who loved you so much from your life.
In her confession, Bray was asked why her brother would want Tim dead.
Tim had not been a good enough father to him. He hadn't been a good enough father to me. They had a lot of issues.
However, Bray never really made it look like they were in cahoots. Rather, she insisted that Nathan forced her into the plan. According to the detectives, that's a bunch of lies. Not only did Bray orchestrate everything, but she callously threw her brother under the bus and showed zero remorse about Tim's death. She only spoke about herself wanting to cancel the plan when she thought it would earn her a lighter sentence.
We've talked to some really bad people in our career.
She's in the top 2 of the most callous.
Minutes after the murder, a detective drove Bray to the station for questioning. That's what she testified in court.
I noticed movement coming from where Bray Hansen was sitting. When I turned to look at her, she was like dancing in her seat, and she made the comment that she liked the song that was on the radio.
The song was Big Girls Don't Cry.
Do you cry?
I try not to.
Why?
Because I don't like crying. It makes me feel weak.
I'd say letting your emotions out is a sign of strength, especially when you're crying for a loved one. It makes you pretty weak to be insensitive to a parent's love for you, and even weaker to go ahead and take their life. The motive? Bray was heartbroken that Tim had another woman in his life so soon after Doreen's death.
I wanted him to hurt like he had hurt me.
Sadly, there is a huge discrepancy between the way that Tim hurt Bray and the way that Bray hurt Tim. Perhaps Tim didn't realize his stepdaughter needed his full attention that year, but Bray didn't realize that Tim had a need for human connection and moving on from his traumatic experience too. Oftentimes, children can feel betrayed when their parent moves on with another partner. It's as if they feel less important to the parent now, almost as if they're forgotten. However, very few children end up doing what Bray did. So what about Nathan? Was he even at the house that morning? The first piece of evidence discussed in the courtroom was the ski mask found in the tree. While Nathan's DNA was found on the mask, his attorney said that the match only came the second time the mask was analyzed. The other damning piece of evidence was testimony from Nathan's jail cellmate. Reportedly, Nathan confessed to him that he was involved in unaliving Tim.
He said when he was running up the stairs, he threw him over the side and they got caught in the tree.
Nathan's attorney, however, doubted the veracity of the testimony.
Is this the kind of guy you trust when he tells you a story? Is this the kind of guy you believe?
The main problem with seeing Nathan as guilty was the lack of motive. Nathan never showed any emotion around Tim's new girlfriend, Kim, and he'd been by his mother so badly that he'd left the family home at age 12. While he was close to Tim, he wasn't as close as Bray, nor was he bothered by his stepdad moving on. Even Nathan's prosecutor said he couldn't find a motive attached to him.
Nobody can really explain this case. You think of motive and you think of a reason, and there isn't one.
When it came to Bray, though, her emotions about Kim were clear from the interrogation.
He was basically going to cut me out of his life completely. I knew he had already chosen his girlfriend over me, and it hurt really, really bad because this is the man that I thought loved me and was my dad.
Yeah. Daughter and girlfriend are totally different things. According to Kim, Bray wanted Tim's undivided attention, and this behavior didn't just apply to Kim.
It wasn't just me. She didn't want anybody in the picture. I think it was about that she just didn't want anybody else in Tim's life that she would view as competition.
Indeed, Bray was about to turn 18, and she'd just had a nasty fight with Tim. Tim wanted her to leave home and start college that fall. She hated the idea.
He was just so incredibly frustrated with her behavior and her choices.
Around the same time, Bray had done a hit-and-run accident. Tim found out after an insurance company called him to report this. Tim wanted to teach Bray discipline, and he wanted her to get a higher education and start living her own life, like a young adult. But Bray saw this as another rejection after years of enduring the same from her mother. It was the last drop for a child already desensitized to violent thoughts and rebellious behavior.
I'm sad I did it. I can't believe I did it. I'm disappointed in myself. I feel like I screwed up my life.
They screwed up her life. That just goes to show the kind of person she was. Nathan continued to deny any involvement. Reportedly, Bray had phoned him, Indeed, and offered him half of the insurance money she was getting for offing Tim. But he never accepted, nor did he turn up in California that day. Okay, so what about his taped confession?
You're gonna be okay, Nathan. I think that I've been fine. I really don't feel like I deserve to get person anymore.
Shockingly, the entire interrogation was not admissible in court, as Nathan had asked for a lawyer and the detectives didn't give him one. In the end, it was each sibling blaming the other.
Who was the masked intruder that came into your house at 4 a.m.?
It was Nathan.
I didn't do it. My sister blames me for everything, and she always has.
Finally, there was a verdict.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Nathaniel Marcus Gann, guilty of the crime of murder in the first degree.
Nathan was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. Bray was found guilty of the same charges, plus a weapon charge and a special circumstance of lying. The jury was convinced she was the mastermind in Tim's murder. Bray will be in prison for the rest of her life, no possibility of parole. It's truly heartbreaking that Tim was never allowed to find his own happiness. He was punished for trying to move on after a lifetime of supporting Bray and Nathan and caring for his family as best he could. Exactly 1 year after Tim's death, his daughter Erin got married to a man named Jesse. Their wedding date had been planned before Tim's death. However, they decided to stick to it and celebrate Tim throughout the event, almost as a symbol of life after death. Remembering and celebrating the kind of person that Tim was is the only thing his family can do now. Still, even 16 years later, it's hard to imagine how his loved ones deal with this tragic story. Thanks for watching, you guys. What are your thoughts on this case? Do you know similar stories? Let me know in a comment. And before you go, make sure you like and subscribe. See you next time.